Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of ACFE Man Chapter, I welcome you all for the first webinar session of the year 2025 and the first session of the new board as well. We have joined by Mr. Haytham Al Raisi, President of ACFE Man Chapter, Dr. Iram Ansari, Director, Training, Research and Development, myself Hassan Ahmed, Director, Media and Programs, and our esteemed speaker, Mr. Iyad Mourtada. Today we are here to learn about best practices in reporting fraud examination results. Without further ado, I will request President Haytham Al Raisi for welcome address. Over to you, Mr. Haytham.
Thank you so much, Hassan Ahmed. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're attending from. It's such a wonderful night today that we have you all here attending ACFE webinar. Our today's webinar is about investigation. I don't want to talk much about it because we have a speaker who will be doing that. But I would say I officially welcome you for this first webinar of 2025. And I would request the ACFE community to stay connected with ACFE Oman because we have a lot of more webinars coming soon. And today, our speaker is Iyad Mourtada. He's an ACFE authorized trainer in the region who will be also conducting ACFE program course review in June. The details will be shared accordingly. But for now, let me introduce our VP, the Director, Education, Research and Development. She's a PhD holder and she's an associate professor. She's a head of accounting who will be introducing the speaker for tonight. Let's welcome our Dr. Iram Ansari to introduce the speaker. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Haytham, for the kind words. I will not take much time. So it's my distinct honor to introduce a true powerhouse in the fields of internal audit, financial management, and fraud examination, Mr. Iyad Mourtada. With credentials spanning CFE, CIA, CMA, CCSA, CRMA, CPLP, CSX, and an MA. Iyad has dedicated over a decade of training more than 10,000 professionals worldwide, bringing modern psychology theories and innovative teaching methods to life in his engaging sessions. As the general manager of Open Thinking in Dubai and an authorized ACFE trainer, Iyad is at the forefront of shaping the future of fraud detection and prevention in the UAE and beyond. He's a renowned personality to nearly all of the ACFE community in the GCC and globally. He has authorized numerous books on internal audit and anti-fraud practices. And if you have seen him speak at any of the internal audit conferences or the IMA or ACFE conferences, you would have surely noticed him in his exquisite and unique attire and presentation style. His depth of expertise combined with an interactive teaching style makes him not just a speaker, but a catalyst for impactful learning. So without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Iyad Mourtada. Over to you, Iyad.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our session. We are going to do this session today differently. So we don't have any slides. So we are just going to be doing a talk. So we would like to have this talk interactive with you. So if you can in the chat actually interact with us about everything we are going to be talking about. So here I will open the chat to see exactly your interaction. So our objective is to make this session really engaging, interactive. So in that way, we want you to be able to express your opinion and ideas. And at the same time, what we are going to be doing, we are going to be talking about. So welcome everyone to our session, which is related to fraud examination and reporting the result of fraud examination. So someone will say, Iyad, so is this about writing fraud examination report? The answer is no. So many of you expected when you register for this session, you heard the best practices in reporting fraud examination result, that I'm gonna come here and tell you about how you are gonna write your fraud examination report, which is important subject. But writing fraud examination report is a simple task, it's not complicated. You are gonna take all the facts and you are gonna list them in a certain order to present it to the readers of the report. It can be the legal department, it can be the media, it can be the audit committee, it can be even the suspect who is actually doing the fraud. I am here to speak with you about reporting fraud examination results. What's the meaning reporting? Reporting will not happen when the investigation will finish. They say, as a fraud examiners, we start with reporting. So when you are going to start the investigation, you need to start reporting. The meaning, you are working in the fraud investigation department and you get a call from, let's say, compliance, saying someone reported that through the hot whistleblowing line that something going on. So now you need to report this to the audit committee. You need to send an email or you need to pick up the phone and report to the audit committee. Look, we have received an alert. We have received some information. We have received a whistleblowing information that fraud may be happening, and now we are trying to go and collect more information to decide if we are going to launch investigation or not. See, so reporting will not happen after the investigation. When we finish the investigation and we say now it's time to go and present our fraud investigation result at the end. Reporting will start when we are going to begin the investigation. When you are trying to communicate information with all the parties involved in the fraud investigation, in the investigation team, this is considered reporting. When you are giving update to audit committee, when you are giving update to the legal department, when you are speaking with HR, when you are collecting information from HR. So reporting is a continuous process from the minute we start investigation until the minute we uncover all the facts and we present the final audit, the final fraud report to the audit committee. Now, someone will think about when we are speaking about reporting, that, oh, reporting is all about making sure we get all the facts, we get all the information, we document them in the proper way. But actually, it's not only about documenting the information. It's not about making sure all the information documented in the correct way. They say reporting the fraud results, the fraud investigation result is more important than the fact you uncover. So let's say you are working in a fraud investigation and you uncover so many fraud, so many techniques, so many schemes, so much corruption, there's money laundering. All this information you uncovered during your examination is not important if you don't explain to the reader of the report how you uncovered them. How were you able to obtain this information? From who you obtained this information? What are these information that you obtain? If you can't explain it simply to the reader for him to understand that you collected the information in a legitimate way, you didn't go and steal the information, you have obtained the information in the proper way, you have interviewed the individuals in the right order, you have collected the information from reputable sources, and you obtained them legally. Because one of the most important things in any reporting related to fraud examination is what we call, always we need to assume litigation will follow. You need to always assume that at the end of your case, we are going to take this case to court. So if you are going to take this case to court, we need to make sure that all the information are corrected in the proper way, they are corrected in the legal way, and they are documented in the proper way, so later in the court we can present it. So I'll give you an example. If you went and obtained, for example, information from a laptop of a person without search warrant, this information can't be used later in your investigation. If you go and interviewed someone and told him, I will not allow you to leave the room until you tell me what happened, and he told you what happened, in that way you make him your prisoner. So the information you collected from him, you can't use it in your investigation. So in that case, what is the fraud examination report? The fraud examination report is documenting how you, as a fraud examiner, conducted your fraud investigation. This is what is fraud examination report. Is not conducting how the fraud happened. Sometimes individuals will think when we are writing a fraud examination report, we are documenting how the fraudsters committed the fraud. No, the fraud examination report documenting our work as a fraud examiners, explaining to the reader what we have done to collect the evidence, what we have done to interview the individuals, what we have done to analyze the evidence, and based on that, how we came up with the conclusion based on all these facts. So it's documenting our credibility, our work, to show that we were not sleeping and we uncovered these facts. We were able to uncover these facts based on the proper methodology of fraud examination. We made sure when we are following the investigation process is to rely on evidence, not our intuition. You can't say in your fraud examination report, I suspected that the person is doing the fraud. Someone say what? Or you say, I think. What do you mean you think? Or I feel. You always say, based on the evidence, this is what we concluded. You are not providing an opinion. You are providing a conclusion based on the facts and evidence. And this is the main idea when you are actually reporting fraud examination. You are reporting the work that you have done. And this is why when you are reporting that work, the first question you need to answer in your report is why we started this investigation. Why we are investigating this person. If you can't answer this question in your investigation report, there's a big issue. So are you starting this investigation to be able to uncover what the fraud the person did? Or you started this investigation to be able to find the assets that he took? Or you started this investigation to uncover the method he followed to commit the fraud? Or you started this investigation to document everything he did so you can submit it to the insurance company? So the first objective when you are trying to think about reporting fraud examination result is defining your investigation objective. You need to determine what is the investigation objective that we have here. Is it finding evidence against a suspect? We are going to take legal case against him. We are going to recover the assets. We are going to uncover the method he followed. We are going to document the result. What is the main objective? Maybe there are more than one objective. And this is why it's very important before you start the investigation and before you start writing your fraud examination report is to speak with the audit committee, speak with the investigation team and say, guys, what are the objectives of this investigation that we are doing here? Before we start the investigation and before we start documentation, because the main objective is to document the objective that's been done. The meaning we collected the evidence and we found out exactly where are the assets and we were able to recover them. So based on the objective, the structure of the report and the writing of the report should be done related to the fraud investigation case. So today, my objective is to present the information to you with a different case study. These case studies will help you understand exactly how fraud reporting should be done properly. So let's start. First, when we are speaking about reporting fraud, there are three individuals inside the organization usually will report fraud. Who they are? Number one, employees and managers. Employees and managers, they usually report fraud. If you are working as an employee and as a manager, as you are doing your work, when you are performing your duties, you may notice something unusual. You may notice suspicious activity. You may notice a red flag. You may notice something like according to the policy of the organization. You may notice unethical behavior, fraudulent transaction. So your job as an employee and a manager to report this to not the audit committee, not to the fraud department, to report it to the whistleblowing line. So most organizations, they have whistleblowing line or they have hotline where employees, they report any kind of expected or unusual activity or fraudulent or unethical activity to the compliance hotline, to the whistleblowing line. So this is your job as an employee, as a manager. So your job is to report to the whistleblower. This is the first one. The second one is your role when you are working as an auditor. If you are working as an auditor, your role as an auditor is to go and audit. We are speaking about internal auditors. Internal auditors, their role is to go and audit the internal procedures, the operation, the compliance inside the organization, the risk management. And while they are auditing, they need to look for red flags. They need to look for any indications of fraud. And if they found any indication of fraud, they need to report this to who? They need to report this to the audit committee. See, Auditors, they don't call the hot whistleblowing line. They are not employees. Employees, they call the hot whistleblowing line. Auditors, they will report this to the audit committee, saying, hey, audit committee, while we are performing our audit, we have noticed some red flags. We didn't go collect more evidence. We didn't go do investigation. This is not our job. The investigation department will do the investigation. Our job is to report to you as an audit committee that we have some red flags, something that's unusual. Example, I am going and doing a warehouse audit, and I discover there are some items missing in the warehouse. I speak with the warehouse manager. He will say, I have no idea. And I check the report, there is nothing. So it looks like some items are not in the warehouse. The reports, they can't explain where they are, and the warehouse manager can't explain. No one. So in that way, we have red flag. Maybe there is a fraud. We don't know, maybe. This is why we need to go and report this issue to the audit committee. We need to tell the audit committee, listen, actually, we have indication related to fraud. Then audit committee, oh my God, indication related to fraud. They say yes. Then they say what they need to do. Now, audit committee, when they discover there is indication related to fraud, they are going to go assign this to the investigation department to say, investigation department, go and take a look at it. Go and collect more evidence. Go and interview individuals to figure out if this is fraud or not. So the first question the investigation department need to answer when any case of fraud referred to them, either through the whistleblowing line hotline or through the internal auditors, is this fraud? We need to always act based on predication. What's the meaning of predication? Enough evidence. If we don't have enough evidence, we can't launch an investigation. If someone will call and say, Ahmed is receiving bribe from Khalid, that's not enough. If someone will, from internal auditor will come and say, there are items in the warehouse are missing, this is not enough for us to launch investigation. We need to collect more evidence to see, is this non-compliance? Is this a mistake? Or this is an actual fraud, and we launch the investigation. So we need to answer this simple question. If this is a fraud, yes, we launch an investigation. We inform the audit committee, we inform the auditors. If this is not fraud, we go back to the audit committee and we report to them. See, we are not going to write fraud examination report. We are going to report back to them and say, listen, we have examined this case and this is a mistake. Someone made a mistake. Someone was not following the policy of the organization because he was not aware. So this is why some items were missing, because he gave these items to the customer, but he didn't record them properly in the warehouse. Okay. So it's a mistake. So it's not actually fraud. Or it looks like the individual is not following the proper procedure. So it can be a compliance issue. So this is why we always need to address the issue based on what? Based on the information that we have in front of us to determine if this is a fraud or not. So this is the second type. Auditors will report red flags to the audit committee. Now, the third type of reporting is fraud examiners. Fraud examiners in the fraud department, while they are doing their work, if they discover any kind of fraud during their examination, they need to report the result to who? To the audit committee and board of directors. They should not report it to the CEO. They should not report it outside the reporting lines. They should not report it on social media. They should not report it to the regulators. Their job as fraud examiners is to report the results related to their work to the audit committee and to the board of directors inside the organization. They should not report it to the shareholders. The board of directors, they represent the shareholders. So board of directors, audit committee, they are responsible. Sometimes some organizations, they have what we call fraud committee. So they report to the fraud committee. So now we understand these three individuals who are reporting fraud cases. And that will make us understand who is responsible for what. Employees are responsible for reporting fraud to the hotline. Auditors are responsible for reporting red flags to the audit committee. And fraud examiners are responsible for reporting fraud cases to the audit committee and board of directors. So this is now we understand the differentiation. Now we go over our first case, which is a very interesting case. We call it the case related to the cash missing. So let's understand this interesting case to help us understand who is responsible inside the organization for conducting fraud examination. So there is a case in one organization that one organization is responsible for collecting cash from customers related to their operation. So they have one department. This department is responsible for cash collection. So they have around 20 employees. These employees, they go to the customers and they collect the money from them related to the sales that customers will do. So one day the manager is reviewing the report and he noticed we have around 15,000 dirham missing. So he reviewed the report and he noticed the amount missing is from one employee. See, so he brought the employee, he said, listen, I'm reviewing the report over the last 1 week and I noticed that, you know, there are 15,000 missing from the money you collected from customers. So what happened? The employee said, I don't know, I collected all the money correctly. I give you all the money correctly. He said, no, the money is missing. Employee said, no, I didn't take any money, everything correctly. Then the manager said, you stole the money, huh? You are doing fraud, huh? So what I'm gonna do, I am gonna actually report your issue to the investigation department. I'm gonna call the investigation department and tell them to come and conduct an interview with you, conduct an examination with you because you are committing fraud. Immediately the employees there said, no, please, I'm so sorry. Please, no, don't do anything. He said, what do you mean? He said, yes, I took the 15,000. He said, you admit? He said, yes, I admit that I took the 15,000. Are you willing to write that, have that in writing? He said, yes. He wrote in writing that he stole the 15,000 and he was manipulating the report. Good. And he said, are you willing to give the money back? He said, no issue. He said, I will give the money back. He called his cousin. His cousin came to the organization with the 15,000 and he gave the money back. Now the manager was so happy. He's like, I was able to solve the fraud investigation case. This manager is thinking that part of his responsibility as a manager working in the cash collection department is to uncover fraud, to solve a fraud allegation, to be able to document the evidence, to be able to recover the assets. This is not your responsibility. This is the responsibility of the fraud department. But some individuals, they like to act as investigators sometimes. And he was able to uncover the fraud. He was able to collect the money. He was able to find the evidence, and he was able to report all this information to HR. So now, after HR received this information that this person violated the company policy where he committed the fraud, this person, he took the money, this person, he returned the money, and this person, he provided an admission about what happened. The HR came and told him, you need to come to our office next day. Next day, he came to HR and HR told him, unfortunately, because you have committed fraud and you violated our company policy, based on our policy, the result will be termination. So they terminated him and they give him his end of benefit and they let him go leave the organization. Now, next week, the fraud department will receive a report from HR saying there is an employee who was fired and actually was terminated because he was committing fraud. And the investigation department say, what happened? How come an employee committed a fraud and no one reported to us? No one informed us. They say, well, this is what happened. They say, really? This is what happened. So the guy in the fraud department called the guy in the cash collection. He said, what happened? How come you are investigating this person? How come you are collecting evidence from him? How come you are recovering money? This is our job. So the head of cash collection said, what's your job? Your job is so easy. I just spoke with him and he told me what happened. I just asked him for the money, he gave me the money. I don't know why we have your department here. What are you doing? I can uncover all the fraud and collect the evidence and document the facts and report the fraud the same way you do. Like, why I should give you this task? It's okay. Then the fraud department told him, okay, but this is our duties. Why you are doing our duties? He said, what there is no harm. What's the issue? They said, okay. Now, after 1 week, the HR department hired a new staff to go and work to replace that staff that was fired. Then the new staff came and he worked for around 2 weeks. Then he came to the manager and he told him, hey, manager, do you know that the previous employee that was working here and he left, he was doing fraud and he was stealing from the organization? The manager said, oh yeah, I know. I uncovered the fraud. I was looking at the report and I discovered that he stole 15,000. The employee said, what 15,000? He said, the 15,000 he stole last week, I uncovered that. He said, manager, he stole more than 300,000 over the last 2 years. And this, what happened? When we are speaking about a fraud allegation, not everyone is able to go and collect all the information. the job of the fraud examination department in reporting fraud cases is very essential, because they are going to come look at all the facts, interview the person, collect the information, figuring out exactly the scheme, and helping the organization in understanding the gaps in internal controls, so in that way in the future the new employee will not do the same fraud again. So this is why it's critical for us to understand inside the organization the role of the individuals who are handling fraud allegation. And anyone working inside the organization, they are not responsible for conducting fraud investigation. Fraud investigation should be conducted by the fraud investigation department, should not be conducted by compliance, should not be conducted by internal audit. Fraud investigation department is responsible for conducting the fraud investigation. So this is a very interesting case for us to understand that when we are handling fraud in investigation, we need to always, if we see any red flag, we see any indicator, we need to bring the fraud investigation to do the investigation. We don't do it ourselves. And at the end, what is the objective of the fraud report? Why we are reporting fraud allegation? They say, number one, to inform the reader about what happened. We need to explain to the reader what happened. What are the allegations? What are the facts? Also, to allow the reader to make the right decision. The reader, at the end of the day, they need to make the right decision. Okay, should we suspend this person? Should we fire this person? Should we give him a warning? Did he do it as a mistake? Is it compliance issue? Is it fraud? And at the same time, it will show the credibility. It will show the work we have done as the fraud examiners related to our case. So this is why when we are speaking about fraud investigation, it's all about how you report fraud more than the fact that you uncover. And always we need to understand who are the readers of this fraud examination report that we are publishing. Is this going to be actually read by the legal department? Is it going to be led by audit committee? Who is going to go and rely on this report? Who is going to be looking at the facts inside the report? Because it depends who's going to be reading the report. We need to understand what kind of information we need to provide. Now let's speak about a very interesting case related to what we call reporting sensitive information. So this case is very interesting. This case related to an auditor. An auditor decided to come and audit the compensation of board of directors. Look how interesting this case. This auditor is auditing to see if board of directors are receiving the proper compensation based on the company policy and procedure. So he went to the finance department and he told him, give me all the reports showing who attended and didn't attend the meeting of the board of directors, because the policy inside the organization said, if you attend the meeting of board of director, you will receive 20,000 dirham. If you don't attend the meeting, you don't receive any money. So he said, great, I need now to match between who attended the board of directors meeting and how much money they received. So he looked at the first meeting, everything is okay. He looked at the second meeting, everything is okay. Third meeting, okay. On the fourth meeting, he noticed something. He noticed that on the fourth meeting, three board of directors, they were not attending the meeting, and even that the finance department, they paid them the money. So he said, wow, fraud, something going on. So he was like, what is this? It looks like there is a fraud. The board of directors are receiving money and they didn't attend the board of directors meeting. So he went to finance. He asked the guy in finance, what happened? How come these board of directors, they were not attending the meeting and they are receiving the compensation? Then the guy in finance is like, oh my God, oh, I forgot. You look, all the time I check the attendance sheet and based on that, I will pay the board of directors for attending the meeting. This time, I don't know, I was busy, I was tired, I forgot, I really forgot to check the list. So it's my mistake. I paid the board of directors, even they didn't attend the meeting. Now, the internal auditor says, but that's not correct. The board of directors received money that they should not receive. So I am gonna report this issue, the non-compliance issue, to the audit committee. So he decided to write a report to the audit committee. Look how smart is this auditor, or let's say how stupid this auditor. This auditor wrote in his report, while I'm auditing the compensation of board of directors, I noticed that 3 board of directors didn't attend the meeting on this date. And he mentioned their name, Mr. Ahmed Saeed, Mr. Khalid Fuad, Mr. Fathi. They didn't attend the meeting. And even that they didn't attend the meeting, they were missing from that meeting, they have received a compensation. They have received 20,000 dirham. And this is completely against the company policy because they are receiving compensation for work they are not performing. So this is why my recommendation, remember auditors always they have the recommendation, is to contact them and ask them to return the money to the organization, because this money belongs to the organization, not to them. And he sent this report to audit committee. Of course, copy of it go to board of directors, copy of it will go to HR, copy of it will go to finance because financial issue, copy of it will go to legal. Now, what happened? Everyone in the organization knew this sensitive information. Number one, board of directors are not attending the meeting. Why? Why we have board of directors not attending the meeting? They are lazy or what? And we know their names. It's not like he didn't say 3 board of directors are not attending. No, he mentioned them by name. And not only that, he said that each one is receiving 20,000. Now everyone inside the organization, oh my God, my salary is 10,000. This guy, when he will attend meeting, drinking coffee and have cookies, he will receive 20,000. Oh my God. And they are receiving the money and even they are not attending the meeting. Wow, very nice. And do you think they are going to return the money? Maybe these guys, they don't want to return the money. So now it was a big scandal inside the organization. So what do you think the board of directors did? The board of directors, of course, they were not happy about what happened. So the board of directors told him, okay, we would like you to come to us. So he came. The board of directors told him, listen, what are you doing? He said, what I'm doing? I am reporting the facts. I'm reporting the information. They told him, yes, but you are reporting sensitive information. You can report and say the following. Look what he should say. While I was reviewing the compensation of the board of directors, I noticed that the accountant made a mistake related to his payment, and because it was his mistake, we asked him to do and correct it. That's it. You don't need to say board of directors, because it's not like board of directors are doing the fraud. It's not board of directors that are running away with the money. So you should actually not mention how much the amount. You should not mention who didn't attend and attend. All these sensitive information are not important to be mentioned. Why? Because this is not a fraud case. At the end, we discover is a mistake done by the accounting department, not done by the board of directors. So because this is a mistake, you should not mention all this sensitive information. So they told him, listen, the first thing we are going to do, because we are the board of directors, we are going to change the policy. The policy now will say that board of directors will receive their compensation if they attended the meeting and if they don't attend the meeting. He said, what? They say, yes, we are board of directors. Do you think these guys who are not attending the meeting, later they will not read the minutes of meeting and go over it and give us feedback? Yes, they are part. Maybe they will not attend physically, but later they are going to read the minutes of meeting and involve. So it's up to us. We are the board of directors. And this is applicable for future meetings and previous meetings. So there is no corrective action, no need to for these board of directors to give the money back. But not only that, also we decided as board of directors to move you from the internal audit department to the accounting department for you to be responsible for paying our compensation to ensure there are no errors. He was like, what? He said, they told him, sorry, we are the board of directors. And I know this guy personally. Until today, this story happened more than 8 years ago. Until today, he's working in that organization as accountant, not auditor, making the compensation for board of directors to make sure there are no errors in them. So this is what happened to him. An auditor made a mistake in reporting fraud-related issue that make him lose his job as an auditor and become an accountant because he's reporting sensitive information. This is why we need to be very careful. When we are handling fraud investigation issue, be careful what kind of sensitivity, what kind of information you are reporting, because this information may be sensitive. You are mentioning names, you are mentioning issues, so sometimes you should not mention it in your report. It depends also who's reading your report. Are you going to mention the name of the HR manager or you say HR manager? Khalas, no one knows who is the name, because we don't want external parties to identify individuals. Are we going to say a significant amount, or are we going to say that the information was received by an informant, or we are going to mention the name of that informant? So sometimes we need to understand what sensitive information we need to include. For example, when we are reporting informant, you should not say the information were received by informant, because who's this informant? There are so many informants. We need to have a code for him. So in our record, like 007, we say the information were received by 007. So we know there is an agent, his name 007, he's providing the information to us. So all over the report, we say this information received by 007, this information received by 008. So we understand who's the agent who's providing the information. We should not say were received by confidential source. You should not make it so general, and you should not make it so specific. You need to determine which information to include in your report when you are reporting for the allegation. At the same time, a report should document the actual investigation technique you have used. So this will take us to a very interesting case called the HB case. So let's discuss the HB investigation, which is one of the most interesting investigations in the world, to show you your responsibility as a fraud examiner in documenting your fraud investigation. They say part of reporting is you need to document in your fraud examination report how you obtain the information. What are the techniques you use to be able to analyze the information? From who you obtain the information? When you obtain the information? All these information are important to show the credibility for you when you are handling any fraud investigation. So what happened with HB? In HB, the board of directors, imagine, board of directors are doing fraud. The board of directors of HB, they were doing actually fraud. They were taking information from the organization and giving it to media and competitors outside the organization, which is disaster. Look what happened. They have a discussion with board of directors. After half hour, the media, they publish, this is what happened in board of directors meeting. Everyone are like, what happened? No one knows. Who is leaking the information? How come what we discussed in board of directors meeting after half hour is published in the newspaper? The chairman, she's a lady, she's responsible for this board of directors in HB. She was so upset. She was like, who is leaking the information? She decided to hire an investigation team. So she hired an investigation team to investigate the board of directors to see who is leaking the information. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out who's leaking the information. Then they say, what should we do? Do you know, until now, we don't know who's leaking this information. So then the investigation team and the chairman said, how about we obtain the phone record of the board of directors? They say, what do you mean the phone records? Is it allowed to obtain the phone records? They say, yeah. We can call the telecom operators saying we are the board of directors. We can impersonate the identity of board of director. We can do pretexting saying we are the board of directors, and the telecom operators will give us the information. The chairman of HB, she said, okay, let's do it. Then the investigators, they were calling the telecom operators saying they are the board of directors to obtain the personal phone record of board of directors. Then they obtain all the records. Then they analyze the record. Okay, who is this calling now? This guy's okay, he's not calling anyone. Oh, this guy is calling the media, is calling all this media channel. Okay. Oh my God, this guy is calling all our competitors. Then the chairman came next board meeting and she is so happy. She said, I'm happy to tell you that you are fired because you are leaking our information to the competitors. We have the evidence. Everyone said, what evidence you have? How do you know? Well, we have your phone record. In your phone record, we can see you are calling the competitors. Everyone said, and how did you obtain our phone record? We didn't give it to you. From where you got it? She said, oh, we called the telecom operator saying we are you and we obtained your phone record. And now we know you are doing fraud. So you are fired. They say, before you do anything and say you are fired, who are you? You are doing illegal activity. Yes, you obtain the evidence, but this evidence you obtain because you obtain them illegally, you can use them. She said, what are you talking about? They said, yes, because at the end, the fraud investigation report documented. Listen, this is what happened. The actual scenario happened with HP. The investigators documented in the fraud examination report that they have obtained the record illegally. So now all this record can be used. And not only that, they committed illegal act. They violated the privacy of board of directors. So now the investigation department will be fired. and the chairman will be fired, because both of them, they committed illegal act, and all the information they have collected related to this fraud investigation can't be used against the board of directors because they were collected illegally. So at the end, the Congress to call the chairman of HP to come in front of the Congress, and she had to testify in front of the Congress, and she told them, well, I didn't know that collecting this information were illegal. They told her, really? Do you think we are stupid? You are the chairman of one of the big tech company in the world, and you will say you have no idea that you are not allowed to call someone and obtain their information by impersonating them, by taking their identity? That's completely nonsense. And at the end, she had to resign from her position. She lost her position. And to tell you the end of the story, all board of directors, they resigned. They say, we don't want to stay with this organization. And of course, the fraud department also, they were fired. So look what can happen when we are dealing about collecting information. Understanding the proper way of collecting information is very essential when we are dealing with any fraud investigation. We need to know how information will be collected, how information will be stored, what information we are allowed to obtain, what information we are not allowed to obtain, to make sure we don't do any illegal act while we are obtaining, analyzing any of the information in our investigation. Now let's go to our next case, which is a very interesting case. This case related to what we call Luis Miguel. Have you heard of Luis Miguel? Luis Miguel, he is one of the top Latino singers in Latin America. And he is very famous and very successful until something happened to him. So what happened? One time he was having a concert on an island, and his manager, who's responsible for renting all the equipments, went to the supplier and told him, listen, I want you to give me an equipment at like a discounted price. I'm gonna tell Luis Miguel that we rented them for 10,000, but give me equipment worth only 5,000. The guy, he said, yeah, but these equipments are not good. You need good equipment for the concert. He said, it's okay, equipment, who cares? So he said, okay. So he gave him an equipment that's really bad, and he said the value is 10,000. He gave him an invoice, fake invoice, but actually the manager of Luis Miguel, he paid only 5,000. The guy just trying to make 5,000. But what happened? Because this equipment were really bad, there's an electricity shortage happen while they are doing the concert. And all the electricity went inside the ear of Luis Miguel, and Luis Miguel lost his ability to hear and sing. The whole career of Luis Miguel finished. In his best golden age, he can't sing anymore. Why? Because his manager decided to do small fraud. Then Luis Miguel was so angry. He was so upset. He was so unbelievably enraged because he lost his ability to hear, and he wanted to understand why the supplier cheated him. So he went to his office manager and he told him, hey, office manager, hey, my manager, go and do investigation. So he assigned the guy who did the fraud to do investigation. So he said, of course. So he hired an investigation team, and he told the investigation team, you go investigate the vendor. And he told the vendor, you say you give us, don't worry, I give you money. Just say you give us equipment not proper. So the vendor said, yes, I give you equipment, they are not proper. I'm so sorry, I cheated. And they said, okay, well, you have to give us the money back. You have to pay fine. This manager, he said, don't worry, I'll give you the money. He paid fine, and they closed the case. Then the manager came back to Luis Miguel. He said, yes, that vendor was really bad. We uncovered his fraud, and we have the investigation team, and everything is okay. And don't worry, we got money from him. But what is the benefit of all this money? Luis Miguel, he lost his ability to hear, finished. And the manager kept his job, and he continued doing more fraud, more fraud, more fraud. Until later, Luis Miguel suspected that something going on. Then he hired independent investigation team, and then they discovered that his manager for so many years was doing so much fraud. And this is the moral of the story to understand. When we are having an investigation department inside the organization, they need to have functional reporting to the board of directors. They should not report to the CEO, because if they report to the CEO, they can actually do whatever the CEO asks them to do, because they are under the control of the CEO. They should be reporting to the audit committee. They should be reported to the board of directors or the fraud committee, or be independent in performing their job. At the end of the day, when Luis Miguel discovered that his manager is doing the fraud, he also didn't handle the investigation in the proper way. He told the manager, "You are bad. I don't like you. You are stupid. You are doing fraud against me. Get out of here." My friend, this is not how you handle fraud investigation. If someone doing fraud investigation, if someone doing fraud against you, you don't just kick him out of the door. He kicked him out of the door. The guy still have keys for all the offices inside the organization. The guy still have access to the laptop and all the devices. The guy still have all the sensitive document of the organization. There should be an exit interview. When we are reporting someone is doing fraud, we need to handle the exit of this person the proper way. We need to obtain the information from him. We need to terminate his access to the terminal. We need to make sure that he will not keep keys and keep any kind of a way for him to get access. Because what his manager did the same day when he got out of the organization at night, he came back, no one inside the organization. He got the keys, he opened, and he stole all the sensitive documents. He stole the personal document of Luis Miguel, showing that Luis Miguel got a daughter illegally, and he went and he sold it to the media, and he made so much money. And he harmed Luis Miguel. He sold all the sensitive information of Luis Miguel to the media to cause harm to him. So this is why reporting fraud investigation is not only about writing the report, it's figuring about what are the proper way for us to handle these fraud allegations after the case happened. So this is very important to understand, okay, what are the next steps that we need to do to handle this fraud allegation? And remember, when we are reporting fraud investigation, so many individuals inside the organization, they are going to try to stop you from obtaining information during your investigation. They are going to try to tell employees, okay, don't share information with the investigator, don't tell them the facts, don't provide them the data. So you need to be always smart about how you are going to obtain the data in the proper way. The meaning, when you are speaking about reporting fraud investigation, you should not inform anyone inside the organization in the early stage that we are launching investigation, which is this is a mistake so many investigators will do. Board of director, they ask you, go do an investigation in this department. You come, say, yeah, we are the investigation team, we are conducting investigation. No, now everyone will delete the information. You need to come and try to obtain information indirectly. Maybe you speak with certain individuals that you tell them, please provide me this information, I will come after working hours. Maybe you send first the internal audit department to obtain some information for you. So you don't want to alert the suspect or the department that there's an investigation going on, because they will start deleting documents. They will start trying to hide evidence. They start to manipulate this evidence. So this is a big issue. Now, let's speak about another interesting case related to reporting fraud investigation. And this is very common, especially in the Middle East. This incident can happen. Let's say that one of the individuals inside the organization was actually committing a fraud. Now, we need to understand, not all the time we can take legal case against the person who's doing fraud. For example, if someone receiving a bribe from the vendor, based on the law, maybe we'll not be able to go and take a case against him. Why? Because the bribe he received was not hurting the organization. So imagine a vendor came and gave 50,000 dirham to one of our employees, but the employees didn't do anything. He didn't violate the company policy. He didn't make him win the contract. He just received the money and he didn't report to us. So in that case, what will happen? In that case, we can do anything other than saying he violated our company policy and procedures. So this is what happened. He violated our company's policy and procedure, but he actually didn't commit legally fraud, because for us to prove legally he committed the fraud, we need to prove that he received a bribe that hurt the organization. There is the damage, and there is no damage, you can take a legal case. So why I'm speaking about that? Because there's a very interesting case happened in UAE, and this case happened in your country. One guy was accused in committing fraud inside the organization. They have evidence showing that he committed the fraud. He actually committed the fraud. He received a bribe from the vendor, or he committed certain acts inside the organization. So they took a legal case against him. But because they don't have enough evidence to be able to take an action against him legally, they lost the case. So in that way, they took a case against him that this person was actually damaging our organization by taking this bribe. He made us lose the business, our reputation was affected, but because they don't have enough evidence to show the damages, they couldn't win the case. But there are damages, but they couldn't connect these damages with whatever the person did. So at the end of the day, the person say, oh, you lost the case, I demand compensation. He decided to file case against the organization, saying that he will demand compensation. He would like to get compensation for the damage in his reputation, for the damage that caused him, for the 3 months of no work that he had to go to court to handle the case. So now, question for you. You can write in the comments, is he entitled for this compensation? If a person was actually committing fraud and the organization took a legal case against him, but the organization don't have enough evidence to prove the case, is he entitled for compensation in case that he will win the case and the organization will lose the case? What do you think? You can write in the comments. Is he entitled to receive compensation for, the damages in his reputation, for the damages related to the weeks or months he didn't work? The simple answer is no, because he committed the fraud. It's not like if the court said the person was not committing the fraud, different story. But the court couldn't prove the damages. The fraud is there. The evidence are there. He committed the fraud. He received a bribe from the vendor. So it's done. But because we couldn't prove the damages, he is not entitled for compensation. So this is what sometimes fraudsters will think. If we can take legal case against them, the meaning we can't report fraud allegation, the meaning we can't bring the case. No, at the end, if someone is doing fraud, the organization can report the fraud incidents, even if legally this is not considered fraud, and they can take the proper action against the person who's doing the fraud. So at the end, yes, it can happen. Now, before we end our session, I have one case I would like to share with you, and then we can take questions. The case is, when you, as a fraud examiner, reporting fraud examination results to board of director, and if they don't take any action, what should you do? You go report to the board of director, the CEO is doing fraud. The board of directors say, oh, okay, thank you so much, we take care of it. Then you see the board of director are not taking any action. Next year, the CEO is doing more fraud. You go board of director, the CEO is doing fraud. They say, yeah, don't worry, we take care of it. Next year, the board of directors doing nothing. So are you allowed to blow the whistle outside the organization? And this is what so many of my friends who are working in fraud investigation, they come to me and they say, Iyad, we reported to audit committee that there is a fraud happening and the audit committee didn't take any action. What should we do? The answer is very simple. In case, based on the regulation, like for example, if you are a bank listed in Saudi Arabia, the regulation will say, in case you discover fraud, you have responsibility to report it, not only to the board of directors and audit committee, and also you need to report to the central bank. Also, if you are company listed in the stock market, you should not only report the fraud allegation to the board of directors, but also to the regulator in the capital market authority. So first is based on the regulation. Is it required by law for you to report? This is number one. Number two, what if you are a privately owned firm? What if you are family business? The dad is the chairman and the son is the CEO and the son is doing fraud. You tell the dad say, don't worry, he's my son, he can do all the fraud in the world. So what should you do? And here will take us to what we call, if there is a moral issue. If the son is building a building and this building is going to collapse and everyone will die because he's not using the proper material, and you go tell the dad, hey, the building is not okay because this building is not built based on proper material, and the dad say, we don't care, let them die. In that case, you have moral obligation to blow the whistle on the organization. You should not only report to the board of directors and audit committee, you have to report maybe to the regulators. You have to report to the government. So what is the correct action you need to take? You need to go hire your own lawyer for him to understand the case, for him to understand the laws and regulation in the country, and help you determine the proper approach. Maybe you stay working there and you be an informant for the government. Maybe you report to the government. Maybe you quit your job. Maybe you provide the report formally to the legal department. It depends on the case and scenario. So there is no answer to fit all. You need to assess every case, but you need to understand that you in general have no obligation to blow the whistle on the client. If you report there's a fraud, if the CEO is taking 5,000 from the organization, you report it to board of directors, that's it. You are done. You don't have to do anything else. But in case the issue have a legal element or moral element, maybe you have additional requirement where you have to report it outside the organization. So I hope this session over 50 minutes give you an idea about what you need to do and what are some of the best practices related to writing fraud, reporting fraud examination results. We are going to be conducting in the future, hopefully, more workshops and more sessions. Usually I teach over 2 days a workshop called reporting fraud examination result, where we go in details and explain to you from A to Z how you need to conduct fraud investigation reporting in the proper way and how can you write your fraud examination report. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can connect with me, and also I'm teaching the CFE course with the Association of Certified Fraud Examiner Oman chapter, so you can reach out to them in case you would like to join my CFE course. With that, I will leave it to if you have any questions. Any questions do we have? Let's see, can you please let me know what would have been the information obtained? Okay, in the case of HP, what happened in the case of HP? The investigation department obtained the phone record of the board of directors illegally by calling the board of calling the telecom operator and saying they are the board of directors. So this is not the proper way that they should obtain the information. So if you are asking what is the proper way for them to obtain the information, they can get, for example, a search warrant if they can. They can get a court order if they can to obtain this record, if they need this record. Okay, we have another question. Isn't that everybody qualified to take down suspect statement, but on the convention of what? Okay, when we are speaking about suspect statement, no need to have it under oath. Remember, you are taking a statement from a person during an investigation. This is not he's going to court and he swear that I'm going to tell the truth. This is a conversation. You are speaking with him and you are collecting the facts from him. But later, when he's signing his confession, you need to have a witness